Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got a bunch of great Steelers content to cover on today's show. First up, should the Steelers consider trading for this former teammate of Aaron Rodgers to fill their number 2 wide receiver spot? We'll be breaking down that player here in just one moment. Also, Jay Glazer and Big Ben Roethlisberger talk about Aaron Rodgers to the Pittsburgh Steelers and why they think it is going to work. And then also, Pro Football Focus ranked the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line number 1 in the National Football League. I'll kind of break down the defensive line here in Pittsburgh and why I agree with them, that this is the best unit in the league. And then we'll finish up today's show with Mina from ESPN saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a big problem with the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about that at the end of today's program, so make sure you guys stick around to see what the problem is with the Ravens, apparently, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Our goal for this month is to finish the month of June with 86.5 thousand subscribers here on Steelers Talk. Right now, we're less than 50 subscribers away from hitting that goal, guys. So at the beginning of today's video, I'm going to have a shameless plug here. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I know every single YouTuber that you click a video on is asking you, that they want you to click that subscribe button. But we give you guys free, informative, and in-depth Steelers content every single day. So if you love the black and gold, you want daily updates, the best way to make sure you see our videos every day is to click that subscribe button. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. And with that, let's get into our first topic of the day, which is whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers should consider trading for second-year wide receiver Malachi Corley, who spent his rookie season with Aaron Rodgers on the New York Jets last year. Corley's only 23 years old. He's got excellent frame, excellent play strength at 215 pounds, good run blocker. The Steelers showed a lot of interest in Corley as a mid-round wide receiver prospect last year in the NFL draft. Arthur Smith seemed to be quite infatuated with him. And of course, he played with Aaron Rodgers last year, so he does have some of that established chemistry with the new Steelers starting quarterback. He's somebody that's known as a quote-unquote Deebo Samuel type of wide receiver, where he's a bigger guy, he's athletic, and he can really do some great stuff after the catch. That's what he was known for at Western Kentucky before he ended up being drafted by the Jets last year. But last year was a tough year for Corley because he only had 83 snaps in the Jets offense, and he had a hard time getting on the same page with Aaron Rodgers, which might be a reason why Rodgers may not want him here in Pittsburgh. But he is somebody that, going into year 2, maybe he's picked up some things. I think he needed to work a little bit on his route running coming in, and he just didn't really get on the same page with Aaron Rodgers last year. But maybe after a whole season working with him, he's developed some of that chemistry, and Rodgers would be cool bringing in somebody that could be a real, a manufactured touch type of guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Corley is an intriguing skill set. I thought he had some pretty darn good ball skills there with Western Kentucky his final season there, along with the fact that he was among the leaders in the country in missed tackles forced. He's just an absolute freight train out there as a rack threat. So, the Steelers don't really have a true, manufactured touch type of guy where you throw those wide receiver screens to. That's a big part of Aaron Rodgers' game, is that, pre-snap, if he sees something where he can get a quick screen out to get a nice, decent chunk, he's going to audible and make that happen. So having a guy like Corley, who's a big body, a good run blocker, somebody that can be that manufactured touch type of screen type of wide receiver, might be a welcomed addition to Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, and of course DK Metcalf in the Steelers wide receiver room. But I think if the Steelers are going to trade for a New York Jets wide receiver, I think the guy Rodgers probably would prefer is Allen Lazard. Rodgers and Lazard have a very extensive relationship together. Of course, they played last year together in New York, and they played for multiple seasons in Green Bay as well. So, because of Corley's lack of production with Rodgers last year, I would say probably Rodgers would prefer to play with Lazard, who played quite a bit for the Jets last season, as opposed to the guy that never really got that connection working with him in New York. So pick your Rodgers guy. Out of these 3 receivers that have played with Rodgers before, that are gettable for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which one would you rather add to the team? Would you rather add Romeo Doubs for a 5th-round pick, type RD if you'd rather get him, type AL for Allen Lazard for a 7th-round pick, or if you'd rather get Malachi Corley for a 7th-round pick, type MC down there in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know which receiver, former Rodgers receiver, you would like to see here in Pittsburgh. Speaking of Rodgers, Jay Glazer, who, by the way, is very close with Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, and former Steelers quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger had some kind words to say about Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and both of these gentlemen think that it's going to work in the Steel City this year. We'll start with what Glazer had to say on the Jim Rome Show yesterday, saying, I think it's a perfect match. I told Aaron this, and I told people in the Steelers, I said there was only two places I think Aaron could go and win a Super Bowl with, and that's with Sean McVay, but that couldn't happen because Stafford came back, and it's with Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. And then Big Ben Roethlisberger had this to say about Rodgers going to the Steelers. I think you will get a better Aaron this year. Even though you're older, I think you will get a better Aaron this year than you did last year, just because the thought process of the Achilles. What can I do? What can I not do? I don't think he will think about it at all. It will be exciting for Aaron and exciting for fans to see. So 2 key points from these 2 kind of excerpts from both Glazer and Big Ben here that I want to kind of talk about today. Number 1, Pittsburgh feels like they can win it all with Aaron Rodgers. This is not just a situation where it's like, oh, we're bringing in Rodgers to win 10 games and lose in the playoffs. No, they feel like Rodgers is that Super Bowl level upgrade for them. And then the second thing that they kind of feel like here is that Rodgers' health is a big reason for optimism. It's the second year coming off that Achilles. Also last year he dealt with other nagging injuries that we'll talk about here in just a second. But if Pittsburgh can give Rodgers the proper support system around him, I absolutely believe that this team has a chance to contend and be up there with the best teams in the National Football League and be up there with the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and be right up with those guys, because I think this defense is going to be excellent. I think this run game is going to be much improved. Hopefully the offensive line is improved as well. And I think Rodgers is the perfect kind of skill set to play that game manager role to help this team be the best it can possibly be. And I'm excited to see what a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers is going to look like for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. All right, this guy has not been fully healthy for pretty much 3 straight seasons. All right, he broke his thumb back in Green Bay back in 2022, played on broken thumb for most of the season, and then got really hot late, almost led them to a playoff berth. Then of course 2023 he tore that Achilles, and then last year it was a complete dumpster fire organizationally for the Jets while he was dealing with a nagging hamstring issue and an ankle issue and a knee issue, while all that while recovering from an Achilles tear at 41 years old. So this is the healthiest we have seen Aaron Rodgers. And personally, guys, I am really excited to see what the 4-time NFL MVP is going to be able to do in a stable organization here in Pittsburgh and with pretty decent help around him here in the Steel City. So still to come here on Steelers Talk, Pro Football Focus has ranked the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line as the best unit in the National Football League. I'll tell you guys why I agree with that here in just a second. The Mina from ESPN says that Pittsburgh has a big problem specifically with the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about that at the end of today's show. But first, let's have word from our sponsor today at Fanatics, where you guys can go chatsports.com/AR8 to pick up your Pittsburgh Steelers Aaron Rodgers jersey today. This is definitely going to be an interesting ride here, guys. So go to chatsports.com/AR8. You click that link and you make a purchase. Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds from your order. So if you're planning on getting a Rodgers Steelers jersey anyway, and you want to help out the channel while doing so, all you have to do is use our link, chatsports.com/AR8, and make a purchase today. Now on to Pro Football Focus here, where they have put out their new defensive line rankings during the preseason of the 2025 NFL draft, or of the 2025 NFL season, and they have ranked the Pittsburgh Steelers ahead of teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants, Houston Texans, Buffalo Bills, and more as the league's best defensive line. And you guys kind of know that I've been saying this all throughout the offseason, that I think when you have TJ Watt fully healthy, I think that this is the best defensive line unit in the league. And frankly, it was last year. And then not only do you have everybody returning from last year that made this such a great pass rush when TJ Watt was healthy, but also you are adding a first-round pick to this unit in Oregon's Derek Harmon, who is going to be an absolute disruptor from the interior as well. So you take a look last year at the starting defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers and where they ranked among Pro Football Focus rankings last year at their given position. Okay, the lowest is Keanu Benton, who was a top 30 player at his position. Everybody else was in the top 8. Alex Highsmith was 8. Cam Hayward was the second highest ranked defensive tackle. And then TJ Watt was the third highest ranked outside linebacker, and he was number 1 in the league before he had that ankle injury versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And this isn't even mentioning the best rotational pass rusher in the National Football League. That's Nick Herbig for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who also had a PFF grade of over 80, which ranked 17th among almost 120 NFL edge rushers last year. So even in the reserves, the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely fantastic on this unit. And, people ask me all the time, Jack, how can the Pittsburgh Steelers compete with the top NFL teams with elite quarterbacks, teams like the Patrick Mahomeses, teams with the Josh Allens of the world, teams with the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the teams with the Joe Burrows of the world? How can the Steelers compete and expect to win in the postseason against these football teams when they don't have a top 4 quarterback in the National Football League right now? Well, the answer to that question, and the Steelers' hope, is that they're going to be able to do what the Eagles did to teams like this in the NFL postseason. The Eagles dominated the Kansas City Chiefs because they consistently put pressure on that elite quarterback. And the Steelers are hoping that once playoff time comes around, they're going to have this ravenous defensive line that is the best in the National Football League to absolutely obliterate guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys like Josh Allen, guys like Lamar Jackson, and guys like Joe Burrow, the top 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League. They are hoping that this defensive line is so good that it's going to lower the impact that these quarterbacks can have, and they're hoping Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense is good enough to offset that and make this a legit Super Bowl contender heading into the 2025 season. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comments section. The Steelers have the best pass rush in the NFL right now heading into the 2025 season. Type T if you think that is true, not Trey, true. And type F, Trader Joey in the chat. He's sabotaging our show here, but type F for false down there in the comments section. Our final topic on today's edition of News and Rumors, Mina from ESPN says that the Steelers have a quote-unquote Ravens problem here. I'm quite skeptical of this, but let's see what Mina has to say. I would argue that the Steelers' defense basically just had a Baltimore Ravens problem because the last time we saw them, they were just getting absolutely demolished, run over by the Baltimore Ravens. When the Steelers played teams that were not the Baltimore Ravens, they allowed 3.8 yards per carry. The Ravens averaged 6 yards per carry. So, I would kind of counter this, Mina, by saying that the problem wasn't that the Steelers defense had a problem. The problem was TJ Watt was playing hurt the final 2 times that the Steelers played the Baltimore Ravens, the 2 times where this rushing attack from Baltimore absolutely obliterated the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when TJ Watt was healthy the one time that these 2 teams matched up, the Pittsburgh Steelers won their matchup in Week 11 during the 2024 season at Acrisure Stadium, and they held that Baltimore Ravens offense to just 16 points, okay? So when you have TJ Watt on the field and healthy, the Ravens don't beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? Throughout Lamar Jackson's entire career, the only time the Ravens have beaten a TJ Watt team where TJ has been fully healthy was back, I think, during like 2018. He's only done it once, okay? So I don't think that the Steelers defense has a Lamar Jackson or Baltimore Ravens problem. I think Lamar Jackson actually has the Pittsburgh Steelers problem because you look at his stats when TJ Watt is healthy and on that field attacking him, his numbers are like 55% completion percentage, more interceptions than touchdowns, an insanely high sack rate. All right, I don't think the Steelers have the Ravens problem. I think when TJ Watt is healthy, the Ravens definitely have that Steelers problem. But be honest with me down there in the comments section. Do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers have a quote-unquote Ravens problem? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section, and that'll be it. Or actually, no, this is not going to be it. I got one more item for you guys here, and this is something that has been floating around Steelers Twitter over the last several hours and days here. But George Pickens, new Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, former Steelers wide receiver, had planned a football camp for kids in Pittsburgh, and even after he was traded to the Cowboys, he kept telling the organizers of this event that he was going to show up. But now we are just days away from the start of the event, and he has flaked on the kids of Pittsburgh. But hey, good news. Pat Freirmuth, a great guy, should be team captain of the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, comes up and he is stepping up in the spot of George Pickens. So that just shows you the kind of character Pat is, on short notice to be able to step up for the kids of Pittsburgh. It's absolutely fantastic, and maybe just another reason why it's a good thing George Pickens isn't a Pittsburgh Steeler anymore. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We got more Steelers content coming your way throughout the weekend, guys. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. And until tomorrow, guys, here we go, Steelers.